This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Sorry about the delay there. We had some technical issues on this end. But what else is new? It's 2023. What do you expect? Anything different from 2022? I hope so. I hope to improve and get better at what we're doing here. So, our first broadcast for 2023. I hope everyone enjoyed their holiday season, and we are going to be talking about, I hope we're made it back to work, okay? Here in the United States, the work week began today, on Tuesday. Hopefully we will be, everybody made it through the day, not too hungover, didn't have any tragedies or anything else. What about that football game last night? We're going to start right off with that football game. And what does it mean for our organizations, and everything else? So, hold on here. Again, computer issues. Getting organized. Had a very busy day today, fighting that safety war. So, at about 9:30 last night, maybe 9:15, my Facebook feed blows up. Right? Friend of the family put up, holy crap, what about that Buffalo game? Right? And then about 9:30, my son runs in. He's not supposed to have a cell phone in his bedroom, but he had the cell phone in his bedroom listening to Monday Night Football. And he came in to my wife all upset and everything else. What does this mean? Blah, blah, blah. He's getting text messages from all of his friends who are not supposed to have cell phones in their bedrooms, and I'm sure, and everything else. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the defensive back, Damar Hamlin. Now, football is not my game. Right, one of the first questions that Jay Allen had asked me when we first started doing the podcast and everything else, are you a sports guy? I mean, so no, I'm a track and field guy. I'm a baseball guy only because my son watches it and my family. I'm not really a football guy. I'm getting there with that. But this is basically it, right? Buffalo defensive back Damar Hamlin was in critical condition early Tuesday after the Bills say his heart stopped following a tackle during the Monday Night Football game, which was indefinitely postponed. I'm sure, though there was some stuff going on out there with, now I'm sure the NFL has its own protocols out there as far as, when people get severely hurt, you're supposed to delay the game 5 minutes. And then they're saying, 5 minutes will start. And the team said, NFW, we're not doing that, blah, blah, blah. And I want to give credit to the NFL and whoever the officials were out here for actually going out there and realizing the psychological safety out here with the folks. No pun intended here. With being empathetic to the teams involved and everything else. And there was really, again, one of the principles of HOP. I'm giving this presentation on Thursday and Friday to do different groups. Right. One of the things with HOP is how you react to bad information and bad circumstances. Do you freak out? Do you yell? Do you scream? Do you do anything else? Your reaction matters. And I think the NFL hit a home run here on their action. Basically, Now, it's been covered from time immemorial. We had a lot of speculation on a couple of the groups that I was in. Well, was it head injury, broken neck, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all of that thing may still be true. But I said, it's probably sudden cardiac arrest. He got hit in the chest from what it looked like. And it's just that, from my own information and my own knowledge, thank God not experience, with sudden cardiac arrest after a blow to the chest, this sort of thing could happen. Right? And that's what they're saying now. I don't know about any of the other injuries. And one thing that we could do is say a prayer for the family, for the teams, and everybody else involved here. And also, thank God they had people kept their wits about them and did the right thing by him and apparently saved his life. So there's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot to be praying for. But what does this really mean for us? As everyone knows, my mother-in-law, and I mentioned this multiple times, I will until the day I die, went into sudden cardiac arrest on our porch of some sort and passed away back in March of 2021. And no, it was very, traumatic. But what does this mean? Are you prepared in your workplace, in your organization, in your life, if something like this happens? Well, you can be, right? And I'll give a shameless plug here. We do first aid, CPR, and AED training here at Safety Wars/JCP Technical. So don't have to use us. I prefer to use us, but it's really important that you go out and get the training, because I'll just read here from the Chain of Survival. Right, this is from the Sudden Cardiac Arrest Foundation. There's a foundation for everything. Sudden cardiac arrest is a sudden, I'm quoting from the website, an unexpected pulseless condition caused by a disturbance in the heart's electrical activity. The electrical disturbance may be due to a heart attack, a severe imbalance of electrolytes, an inherited genetic mutation that predisposes the heart to electric abnormalities, electric shock, or blunt force trauma to the chest, leading to commotio cordis. Now, symptoms include an almost instantaneous loss of consciousness and collapse. The treatment goal for SCA is to restore healthy heart rhythm and good neurological outcome. SCA strikes approximately 326,200 people to almost 400,000 people, individuals outside hospitals each year in the U.S., including an estimated 6,328 people less than 18 years of age. On average, about 1 in 10 victims survives, though some high-performing communities have achieved survival rates of more than 60% for specific types of cardiac arrest. My understanding is that there's 3 types of cardiac arrests. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim one on TV or the thing. But the important thing is this: immediate treatment. Here we had a lot of capacity built into the system. You had EMTs on site. You had medical staff from each team. You had an AED available. You had, pardon me. You had a lot of different things that went right here. They got him immediate help. And what I liked was that both teams went out there and surrounded him in prayer chains and actually to block the view. Now, this was important because I'm sure there were members of his family and other sensitive individuals there that didn't really need to see this thing happening, including children necessarily. And what the idea here is the chain of survival immediately. So there's 5 parts of it. So this is from the AHA, American Heart Association. That is 1, immediate recognition of cardiac arrest and activation of the emergency response system. So let's say you're all alone. What do you dial? You dial that 911 or have someone dial that 911 immediately if you're with someone. Right? Number 2, early CPR with an emphasis on chest compressions. Rapid defibrillation, meaning if you have an AED, automatic electronic defibrillator device, or electric defibrillator device, get it and apply it. And then number 4 is effective advanced life support. And number 5, integrated post-cardiac arrest care. Right? So normally a bystander, right, is going to be able to do 1, 2, and 3. That's right. Recognizes and activate an emergency response system. Right? Get the automated external defibrillator, AED. Now, where are these usually located? If you're in a public location, it's usually located where the fire extinguisher, any pole alarms are, eye washes, anything like that. But what's important is to go in and find out where this is when you go in a building, right? So, for example, when I give training at the university, what do? Or I go through the whole facility and we look where the fire exits are, right? That's part of the 10-hour course, fire exits. We identify emergency equipment, including AEDs, how to dial the local emergency number. With that, if there's an on-site number or or anything else, you got to know the location you're at, especially if you're on a cell phone. That's why I favor a hardwired phone at the facility, if possible. Right? And basically, early CPR with an emphasis on chest compressions. So what are you looking at? If the bystander is not right, decreasing time between cardiac arrest onset and the first chest compression is critical to survival. If the bystander is not trained in CPR, he or she should provide hands-only, compression-only CPR by pushing hard and fast on the center of the chest at a rate of at least 100 compressions per minute. All right, so for adult victims, and we're going to talk about this, the compression depth should be at least 2 inches. For young victims, 1 through 8, the compression depth should be about 2 inches or about 1/3 the diameter of the chest. So what the idea is, you apply the chest compressions. I'm going to tell you, being a trainer here, people don't want to do mouth-to-mouth anymore because of COVID. Bottom line. So a lot of organizations, mine included, are okay with chest compressions. But basically what it is 30 chest compressions, 2 breaths, 30 and 2, 30 and 2. The rescuer should continue CPR until an AED is ready for use or EMS providers take over care of the victim. In the event of the bystander is trained proficient in CPR, he or she should provide 30 compressions followed by 2 breaths. All right, we mentioned that. Emergency dispatchers, many EMS systems will coach bystanders in their efforts to save lives. So as soon as an AED is available, often what happens, not all the time, but often, police show up to a scene before, or a sheriff, before the ambulance or the paramedics. So normally they have an AED. That's pretty much what I've been told, and that's been my experience with this. Then you go and they activate the AED, and real simple. You turn it on and follow the instructions. And then obviously, effective number 4, if you're keeping track, effective advanced life support and integrated post-cardiac arrest care. So this is all really, really important here. But the idea is that you need to increase the capacity of your system, which makes it safer, and be here with this. Now, with the first aid, CPR, AED, right, whatever's appropriate. Now, something also I would like to point out to everybody is this. What's OSHA say on this? OSHA does not require an AED yet. Hopefully that's going to change. Number 1. Number 2, the OSHA requires, this is not by regulation, but it is by letter of interpretation, that you get a prompt medical response. That could be first aid, CPR, within 3 to 4 minutes. Now, a lot of states out there do not publish your basic life support stuff publicly, meaning it's not online, or if it is online, you really got to dig into it. Dig into websites and everything else. New Jersey, fortunately, publishes this. And I'm not against EMTs or firefighters or anything like that. That's not what this is about. Right? Because some people say, well, you're against... No, we're not against anybody here. We're for people. We want to support. We want to lift up people in this community. What New Jersey says is they cannot they track it by county, and I'm sure the counties track it by city or by locality, right? Is that they cannot supply, on average, a basic life support within 9 minutes, which means anywhere in the state, some of the parts of the state are maybe a little bit less. I didn't look up the statistics today, but some of the areas of the state, the more rural areas, maybe up to 27 minutes. Something to note, which means unless there's accident in your work in a facility with an EMT or a paramedic right there, you're not going to hit that 3 or 4 minute thing. So that is incumbent on your organization or you to find this out, to do this stuff. The other thing is this. OSHA requires first aid, right, things. First aid kits to follow the ANSI standards. The number is not important, but the ANSI standards. Now, something I want to point out to you, ANSI standards currently, as of Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, I think I forgot to mention the date today. As of today, do not mention AEDs. I'm going to tell you, I think that might be changed with a highly public situation like this. They don't require AEDs. All right. OSHA does require AEDs. But the other thing is that the ANSI standard does not include a whole bunch of stuff that you might want to include in your first aid kit. Well, Jim, what kind of stuff are you talking about? Tourniquet, right? Doesn't have it in there. Eye wash. But guess what? OSHA requires an eye wash, right? Depending on what your situation is. An eye cup, just a cup, right? Rinsing out the eye. That's not included in there. Bloodborne pathogen kit. OSHA requires it, but that's not necessarily required in a first aid kit. Blood sugar monitoring equipment, blood glucose monitoring equipment. That's all available over the counter right now. Guess what? Not required, but guess what? Should you have that? Yeah, for diabetics, and learn how to use it. Have it available. Keep it updated. That might be an appropriate thing to have. Painkillers, antacids, anything like that, not required. Or if it is, in very limited amounts. So just because you went to your local department store and you went or a supermarket and got a first aid kit, that does not necessarily mean that you have everything that you need. Doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, look at us, we're prepared. So OSHA, for example, for the outreach training, the direction that I got is that they eschew, meaning they don't like first aid, first aid, CPR, or anything like that in their outreach training courses. But I always talk a little bit about it, not as a full topic, but just to point out that this is an important thing and everybody in the workplace should have it as they're able. Now, you're going to say, well, I don't want that. Well, I hear every excuse in the world. Talk a little bit about it, not as a full topic. I hear every excuse in the world. I am not going to get first aid CPR training because I must respond to the emergency. No, that's not necessarily true. If you are paid to respond to an emergency, a whole bunch of stuff kicks in at that point. Right? Are you required? Well, guess what? You have a whole bunch of requirements. It's largely voluntary. You're not a professional medical person, so you are not required to respond. Right? If they're making you respond, most states are probably requiring an EMT certification or advanced life support or something like that. with that. No, basic life support, except there's like an advanced class for that. So why isn't it required is that you have the right of refusal. So for example, I was responding to an emergency one time, and the person involved, I won't mention the demographic or anything like that, likely had a bloodborne pathogen based on his history that he openly shared with everybody. So when I came across him and he had a bloodborne and he was bleeding, right? I put on the gloves, he put on everything else, right? The suit, blah, blah, and now he had a bloodborne pathogen. But he was conscious and he was well enough to administer first aid to himself. Oh, well, that's great. So I had him administer first aid to himself, taking myself out of the situation, except for cleaning up some blood afterwards and, handing him the stuff that he needed, right? Again, and calling 911, the whole everything else that goes along with it. So I have like the right of refusal here if I don't feel it's safe. What's another thing? Let's say that the area where this accident happened is not safe. You're in the middle of a riot. By the way, when I took my first aid CPR training with the community emergency response team, there were people there that were in the riots out in the Midwest. Wasn't safe, right? So they did not administer first aid CPR because it wasn't safe. What else might not be safe? If it's a traffic accident and you have traffic, you have a fire, you have anything like that that's going to impact your safety. So just because you have first aid CPR training doesn't mean that you're absolutely obligated to provide it to anybody. The other thing is that the person may refuse help. When does that happen? Well, it happens all the time. I've seen it already where, hello, I'm first aid CPR trained. Do you need help? Get the bleep away from me. Okay. Thank you very much. Or it might be people might refuse, or you might refuse if you have certain religious beliefs. So, for example, there are certain religions out there where they're not allowed to touch a person of the opposite sex. Not allowed. Forbidden. All right, so that's how one of the surrounding communities is. So they have a ambulance service for males and an ambulance service for females for that. That's what people's beliefs are. You got to respect them in this society. Many different things. So just having it doesn't mean you're obligated. I had a person who was vehemently against first aid CPR training. I mean, you're not going to believe, you wouldn't believe it. I've spoken about him on this program before. He was the one who said, I don't give a bleep if they take nosedives off the building. I don't care if they wear fall protection or not, Jimmy. Oh, okay. And by the way, his employer knew that. He was the same person that said, I ain't ever freaking learning first aid CPR. Well, guess what? He had a family tragedy. Horrific situation. He was able to administer first aid and CPR and everything. Was not successful. Right? Guess what? After this happened, guess what the first thing he did? I got a phone call about 2 weeks later after he got done with the funeral and everything else. Is Jimmy, first aid CPR training for my whole crew. Okay, no problem. All that's in there. Well, what is different between a safety words, first aid CPR for the workplace training, AED, and anywhere else? Community CPR, different approaches. We go into how to manage accidents a little bit. We go into bloodborne pathogens, right? Full-blown training and everything else. Yeah, it's a full day's training, maybe more, depending on the crew that you have. Could be 2 days, 3 days. It's already taken, right? With that. So that's what I got for that. And we're going to take a break here. I hope this was some useful information. And again, give us a call, 845-269-5772, or email us at Jim at safetywars.com, and we can come and do your first aid CPR training. I'll post more information on our social media. That's Jim Polzel, P as in Peter, O-E, S as in Sam, L as in Larry, or L in L, because I love you. No, that's at all of the things, at all the social media groups. We're going to come back at you in a moment.
You are listening to Safety Wars. Tomorrow's Safety Today.
In the professional safety community, communication and planning are just a few keys to your program's success. The question many practitioners have is, where do I start? Dr. Jay Allen, the creator of the Safety FM platform and host of the Rated R Safety Show, has built a global foundation to help you along the way. Go to safetyfm.com and listen to some of the industry's best and most involved professionals, including Blaine Hoffman with the Safety Pro, Sam Goodman with the Hop Nerd, Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant, Jim Pozell with Safety Wars, Emily Elrod with Unapologetically Bold, and many others. As individuals, we can do great things, but as a team, we become amazing. Dial into safetyfm.com today and surround yourself with a powerful force of knowledge and support.
Okay, here we go. OSHA recordables, first aid cases, catastrophic losses. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Polzel with Safety Wars. Okay, we are back here. Why am I not here? Okay, there we go. Like, why am I not hearing this in the earphones? So, we're going to, this is our prediction show. I want to start a tradition here, annual tradition of, our annual tradition of predictions. Every radio show that I'm a fan of has an annual prediction show. So I wanted to try this out. I put it on LinkedIn last week. I shared it with my friends, some of my Facebook groups, things of that nature, on what what their predictions for 2023 are. And so on Friday night, I put it out to a lot of my group, right? My friends and everything else. And one of the predictions, and I said, look, if it's appropriate, I'll put it on the air. But this is what happened. God's honest truth. Guy says, Pope Benedict is going to pass away, and possibly Pope Francis in 2023. This was a person with some inside info on here, with the Vatican, and sure enough, within 6 hours, Pope Benedict was dead. Pope Emeritus Pope Benedict, I believe that's the correct title. Well, rest in peace. And I said, holy crap. I said, how about I'll put a thing in, do not predict any deaths. Right. I don't need the FBI or Secret Service coming to my thing. But no, I put up, no. So that was one prediction, not a good one. All right. Here are some other predictions out there. We have a prediction from a very insightful person. Very insightful, very no nonsense. A person who was known to tell off the president of the United States right to his face. My wife. All right. My prediction is that New York will get less than 20 inches of snow this winter. Honey, I hope you're right. All right. The price of fuel and everything else. Aye. All right. Here are some other ones, right? People becoming more aware of BS in the media and how it is manipulating them to do certain things. I think that is probably a pretty accurate one. That's an obvious one. there's going to be more pushback against the man or against whoever is in charge. But the pushback is becoming more nuanced. Sort of like if you're a fan of the Andor series, Luthen, where everything's done in the background, right? Sort of thing. Pushback in the background. Planning in the background. More green initiatives, especially when we have oil prices coming up, and right, that's what we're looking at. This was another prediction. More green initiatives. Here's some of my stuff. We have a lot of elections this year in New Jersey, Kentucky, and Virginia. They either have, like in New Jersey, the entire lower house of the state assembly is up for grabs. Virginia, both houses, I believe, are up for grabs. In Kentucky, they have statewide elections for governor, attorney general, among other things. There's a governor's race in Louisiana and a governor's race in Mississippi. My prediction is that we're going to become more and more polarized here. What it comes down to, I'll go into a little bit of the swamp here. Hold on, I need the swamp music. Okay, I'm going to have this more organized in 2023. All right, so our swamp. All right, I see what's after what happened today with Representative McCarthy in the lower half in our Congress not being elected after 3 votes as Speaker of the House. I see things becoming more and more polarized here as with that. Now, economic prediction. We're going to go into financial stuff in a minute here with some information here, with some predictions. And I've been listening to a lot of economists here with this and what their predictions are. So here we have one. I'm not going to mention, hold on. Her name is Gina. I'm not going to mention last names. She's an EHS professional, managing psychosocial risk in the workplace and other key dimensions of wellness. So as we know, there has been a huge move in ever since the pandemic, but it happened before the pandemic a little bit also. We're starting to get into it. Right? What are psychosocial risk factors? Physical risk factors, as force, posture, repetition, are obvious, right? However, research has shown psychosocial risk factors also need to be taken into account. What are those? High workloads, tight deadlines, a lack of control of the work and working methods all lead to stress. Right. What also are psychosocial risks? Many jobs are not well designed and include some or all of the following undesirable features, which may lead to risks. 1. Workers have little control over their work and work methods. Workers are unable to make full use of their skills. Workers, as a rule, are not involved in making decisions that affect them. Workers are expected to only carry out repetitive, monotonous tasks. Work is a machine or system-based. Work demands are perceived as excessive. Payment systems encourage workers working too quickly or without breaks. So that's like a quota system. Work systems limit opportunities for social interaction, and high levels of effort are not balanced by sufficient rewards. Right? Meaning anything from money to an attaboy. So what do? Right? Reduce the monotony of tasks where appropriate, ensure tasks the workload is reasonable, ensuring good communication and reporting of problems, encouraging teamwork, monitoring and control shift work or overtime working, reduce or monitor payment systems which work on piece rate, and providing appropriate training. So those are the bottom line. So Gina says that we're going to recognize this stuff a little bit more. And I'm sure that can happen. That will happen here with as we move along, and there's a huge move to recognize that. There is the opposite thing also, right? So like with the ends arise abuse, and you can only push safety so far, and you can only push danger and unsafe workplaces so far until you get pushback, right? and you try to, and we're playing in the middle. So on one extent, you have injuries and danger and risk. And the other end, you have safe. However, we're going to identify that. Well, guess what? You're not going to have either one. You're going to be somewhere in the middle, right? You try to have a safer workplace, but because of everything else and human organizational performance, what we're presenting on Thursday and Friday, and it's all over Safety FM, right? Subscribe to Safety FM Plus. It's worth every penny of it. All right. And but bottom line is all of this stuff out there is starting to get recognized because there's pushback. Now, the thing is that you can have two things. You can have grit, all right, Grit, meaning how to get through a tough situation in the short term. Have grit, you mean, you have resilience, you're able to go through it. But, on the other hand, that's putting out fires all the time. Then you have the other way where everything is lackadaisical. You need somewhere in the middle, right? So you got to be productive. You need a certain amount of stress in a system to be productive, obviously. And maybe a little bit more balance will be in there. I know I'm going to speak through personal experience with my stress levels. And I've been told that at least in advertisements on Facebook, that's a trauma response when I suffer, right? Where I overcommit and work myself right into a frenzy. All of that stuff is detrimental and has been detrimental to me until I realized it one day and I stopped doing it. It's okay to say no, right? Here is another one, and it's from a president and CEO of a think tank. His name is William, right? And here we have, this is a lengthy, and he actually gives an explanation that's pretty good. Becoming self-aware. Maybe humans can become self-aware before computers. When we understand how much we really know, we listen to ourselves more, and then understand our power to be safe is in our connections to others. Once we learn to listen to ourselves, we might actually begin to listen to others. We all see risk differently. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. If someone sees something we don't, and we are self-aware, we should be curious and interested instead of defensive and dismissive. Becoming aware of our subconscious and the patterns we train it to do will be the future. Carl Jung said, quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, unquote. Well, this is a very insightful one, William. You can find out who these people are by going to my LinkedIn and connecting with me and everything else. Really insightful here. So often, right, one of the things with talk therapy, or if you ever have gone to counseling, is that they get you to talk and see patterns in your behavior, in your thinking that are often self-destructive. That's not the only reason why you go to counseling or anything like that, is that, right, you're able to recognize what's self-destructive and not. So you keep on, so for example, I get this comment, Jim, I used to be really good. Everything used to be going good, but everything I touch seems to go to groove now lately. Well, sometimes there's something you're doing in the background and you're unconscious in your background that's sabotaging you. And maybe if you can become more self-aware of that, become more introspective, ask for help, right? And all this other stuff, you're going to be able to do whatever you need to do, right? Make yourself a little bit more successful. I've had to do a lot of soul searching over the years. I'm no different than anybody else, right? As I said to my friend Elaine in church one day, the minister says, church is not for perfect people. I said to Elaine, she's sitting in front of me, I said, thank God it ain't for perfect people because I'd be in here all alone. She did not like that, and she got up and slapped me. And everybody else, when I said that, what do you think their response was? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Don't quit your daytime job. So anyway, those are the two predictions. Let's go into some of the financial predictions right now. So first we're going to do is we're going to review what some of the indexes were today. Dow Jones Industrial came down to 33,136. S&P 500 down 3824. NASDAQ down 10,386. Russell 2000 sank to 1750. Russell 2000. U.S. Treasury note 10-year sank to 3.756%. Bitcoin dropped a little bit, 16,646. Crude oil came up a little bit, 77.05. All right, and let's go on over to the precious metals. Gold, right, up to, sank slightly, 1848. Silver sank 24.25. Platinum rose a little bit to 10.95, and palladium is up to 17.64. Okay, and these things, they're very volatile, right? Precious metals, but the overall trend, right, has been pretty much coming up by 1% for gold, and when compared to everything else. But anyway, I spent the weekend, right? I try to stay off the computer because we're here all the time during the week, right? So we try to stay off the computer on the weekend. But from what I've heard, various commentators, what I've both sides, right? Liberal, conservative, supply side, demand side, the whole thing. Metals dealers, non-metals dealers, Bitcoin people, non-Bitcoin. So I try to get everywhere in between here. The trend, now it came back to me, right? I'll give my brother Wally a shout out here. He won an award in the 1990s for one of the organizations he was in because he was called the Hat and T-Shirt Kid, right? He got an award for it, right? A gag award, but it hung on his in his bedroom for many years. And he used to go out and get the most outrageous T-shirts, the most outrageous hats. He used to get them from the boardwalk in Virginia Beach. I don't know the name of the place, but he used to go there. Maybe it's still there. Maybe it's not. Now I think the internet has taken over a lot of this stuff. And I mean, outrageous. All right. So one of the things was, the T-shirt he had, if you think you know what's going on, you're probably full of Groovno, except it didn't say Groovno. And nothing could be more closer to the truth with the financial situation here. We do know that quantitative easing, especially with the way the politics is oriented in the country now, is not supported by either political party in large part. We know that we just had a continuing resolution for $1.8 trillion that is going to last until September 30th of 2023, until the beginning of the new fiscal year. So that means no budget. Interest rates are coming up. All of this stuff. The demographics are not there. So, for example, if you're a Gen Xer like me, it's either you just passed your peak spending year or you're going to pass your peak spending year, which is 47 right now, going into Gen Y or whatever we're calling it after that. I forget. We have some financial woes that may be ahead. Troubled waters. This, I know. There's not a darn thing that you're going to be able to do with what the government does on monetary policy outside of an election. Right now, people do not understand macroeconomics or economics. Talk to people from either side. Biggest complaint that I hear. You cannot impact what these people are going to do, but what can you do? You can be vigilant, right? Watch what's going on. and everything else out there and impact your own life. Jay Allen mentions Dave Ramsey, who's on many different radio stations, syndicated. Look him up. Has a lot of good things to say. Adding capacity to your system, to your financial system. Reducing debt, reducing spending. Don't waste money. That sort of thing. Maybe you don't need that vacation. Maybe you don't need that item off of that place named after a river. Anything like that. So that's all going to be in there. So those are my predictions for 2023. If you have any others, I'm willing to update and add them. And maybe next year we'll start a little bit earlier and we'll be able to have some more predictions. We'll have a full-blown hour of predictions on. That's what my goal is eventually for this. And let's go to some of the other news stories today. Yes, this is all planned, right? So often what I do is I do the main event first because, let's face it, back east it's 8 o'clock at night this starts. We are in afternoon drive time on the West Coast. So, other news. Actor Jeremy Renner suffered chest trauma, right? Or an orthopedic injuries in a snowplow accident. Man, Jeremy Renner, who played Hawkeye in the Marvel Avengers movies, was in intensive care unit of a Nevada hospital following surgery Monday after suffering a traumatic injury while plowing snow. Right? So I'm trying to figure out what happened here. I haven't heard a lot of stuff here. Everyone wishes well to him. They say it's just a traumatic injury in an accident. In the Lake Tahoe area. Okay, I don't know. They're doing an investigation. Italian panettone goes global, right? So, in case you're wondering what that is, an Italian panettone is a Christmas bread from Italy. It also was the favorite snack of my brother's dog, Spike. My brother John had a dog, Spike. You had to hide that bread. It was that good. He'd steal it off the table and eat the whole thing whole. So it's gone. No, everybody's doing it now, right? Oh, there's all over the place. So Pantone was domed a sweet bread with a tender bright golden crumb, scented and studded with sugar fruit. It belongs to the same luxurious holiday tradition as German Stollen, Polish Czocka, and British fruitcake. It's been a long time since I've had Czocka, right? Treats made once a year from expensive stores of butter and eggs, refined flour and sugar, spices from Asia, and preserved fruit from the Mediterranean. Bits of chocolate were added later, and some lemon also. So, delicious. Apparently there's a lot of controversy there, and it's very expensive depending on what you're getting. So something to remember for next year. Probably a little bit late on that. More importantly here, right? We reported a couple of weeks ago on shortage of drugs, cold flu and drugs, so they're over the counter or in prescription. We have something like over 100, and the number that they gave is 189 on their website, but some of those shortages have been resolved. So it's like over 150 shortages in the United States of medicine, of all different types. Big thing is the semaglutide, Ozempic, and the non-diabetic version of that. Right, there's still a shortage for that. A lot of diabetics, I'm going to tell you, they get a lot better luck out of that than insulin for the type 2 diabetics on that. With that, my understanding is that it not only in controlling your appetite, right? Insulin is like has always been the Cadillac since the 1920s. I think the inventor was Benning, right? With that, but that only controls one hormone, where Ozempic is able to control more than one hormone. and which leads to a little bit of a better outcome for type 2 diabetics, and also for controlling appetite, things of that nature. But they're all in short supply, all this stuff in short supply. I have a family member that just called me today. Oh, I have COVID, and they're very concerned with her. Now, I'm going to give China a little of a break here, right? So they had all these lockdowns and everything else. I think that they realized they didn't have the capacity to respond to COVID, because right now the reports coming out of China is that people, they're stacking bodies here all over the place with COVID. Maybe those lockdowns are there because they knew that they could not, control this at all without this. Right? I'm hearing things like overwhelming and everything else. The system is paralyzed. I've spoken to many families who, so for example, they brought their children to China and had a medical emergency, and it wasn't pretty, man. I know families who have adopted Chinese children. They go to pick them up in the hospitals and the orphanages. Very unsanitary over there. That was what I've always heard on that. I've never been there. So maybe they did not have the capacity, right, to respond to the COVID emergency on there. That's why they had the lockdowns. Here's another leftover story from last year is autonomous drones. Right? So they're thinking if you ever saw the movie Terminator 3 Judgment Day, right? I've spoken to people who I want to know what they did for a living. And the dude says to me, have you ever seen Terminator 3 Judgment Day? I said, yeah. He says something like, that's what I do. Something like that. Not exactly. So those things were the drones and automated things and everything else. That's all real. I heard about this 10 years ago. But again, are we on the dawn of a conscious AI? Are we already there? Because what's happening is, my understanding is that these drones have GPSs, and they're able to locate where they are, right? And they're able to go and say, well, do X, Y, and Z to this locale, and you program it, and it's flying by, right? It flies out by, and it does its mission. There's no human being there. Maybe some type of thing like a Geneva Convention has come about because of this. So all this talk makes me think about The Runaround, right? Which is an Isaac Asimov book. And from 1942, where they have the Isaac Asimov's laws, 3 rules of robotics, right? A robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law, and a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. It's like these 3 laws of robotics aren't even a factor here. Is that a good thing or not? Right? What he ended up was this was meant to be a fundamental framework of robots. If you've seen the movie or read the book I, Robot, I studied it in college. Don't remember much about it. This was one of the big things and it was for philosophers back in the 90s. When I was reading this, still is, now it's even more important. What about all the other stuff going on here, right? With this, is it ethical to have drones go and attack, right, to this degree without a human being in the pipeline. Something you need to worry about, something you need to think about. And also, what does this mean for law enforcement? Bank robberies fall to zero for the first time in a cashless Denmark. So bank robberies were zero in 2022 in Denmark. Why? Cashless society. Well, what about all the other financial crimes out there? Thousands of records shattered in historic winter warm spell in Europe. This is a blessing in disguise because they have fuel shortages over there due to the war in the Ukraine. This might actually be a good thing, that maybe a little bit things working out. So that's what I have for our first program of 2023. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I don't know, should I have Christmas music? I mean, we have like another day of Christmas here. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, we'll go out with Christmas music. I want to thank everybody for a successful 2023. We're looking forward to a even more successful 2022. I hope we're going to have a more successful 2023. We are going to expand what we're doing here and have some online events. More of that to come up in the near future. With that, as we're able to release information, and want to thank everybody for the support. See you tomorrow.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.